I used to think I had a solid family. My parents raised me to value responsibility, honor, and truth above all else. I spent my whole life trying to live up to those values. But then something happened that turned everything upside down. One phone call changed my entire world. A lie so devastating that it cost me the people I loved most. When the woman I once cared about stood in front of my parents, holding a baby, and claiming I was the father they believed her. Without question, without hesitation. They believed her over their own son. And just like that, I was cut out of their lives. Before I tell you how this nightmare unfolded, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you want to hear how the truth finally came out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You will not want to miss what happened next. I am Mario, and I grew up in Seattle as an only child. My father was a former Marine, disciplined and strong. My mother taught elementary school and had the kindest heart of anyone I knew. They raised me with traditional values, the kind that stick with you for life. Be honest. Take responsibility. Treat people with respect. Our family was tight. Every Sunday, I would drive to their house for dinner. We would sit around the table, talk about our weeks, and just enjoy being together. They were proud of me. Proud of the software engineer I had become. Proud of the man I was trying to be. Everything felt right, stable, secure, until Sophia walked into my life. I met Sophia 2 years ago at a company networking event. She worked in marketing, and from the moment we started talking, there was a connection. She was charming, funny, and seemed to understand me in ways I had not experienced before. We started dating, and for the first few months, it felt like a dream. I introduced her to my parents after we had been together for 3 months. They loved her immediately. My mother even started hinting about weddings and grandchildren. I thought maybe this was it. Maybe I had found the person I would spend my life with. But after about a year, things started to shift. Small lies here and there. Little things that did not add up. Sophia would say she was at work, but I would see her car somewhere else. She became controlling, jealous over things that made no sense. If I went out with friends, she would accuse me of not caring about her. If I talked to a female coworker, she would spiral into accusations. I tried to make it work because I cared about her. I thought maybe she was just insecure. But then I found the messages. She had been texting another man, flirting, planning to meet up. When I confronted her, she broke down and admitted she had been seeing someone else. She said it was a mistake, that she was sorry, that it would never happen again. But I knew I could not stay. Trust was broken, and there was no coming back from that. Breaking up with Sophia was one of the hardest things I had done, even though I knew it was the right decision. For 2 weeks after I ended things, she called and texted constantly. She cried. She begged. She promised she would change. But I'd made up my mind. I blocked her number. I needed space to heal. After that, Sophia went silent. 3 months passed, and I heard nothing. I assumed she had moved on, just as I was trying to do. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and started to feel like myself again. My parents would occasionally ask about Sophia, and I would just tell them we broke up. I did not want to get into the details about her cheating. I figured it was in the past, and there was no point in dragging her name through the mud. Life was starting to feel normal again. I thought the worst was behind me. I was wrong. It was a Friday afternoon. I was at my desk going over some code for a project deadline when my phone rang. It was my mother. The moment I heard her voice, I knew something was wrong. She sounded different, cold, distant. Her voice was shaking, but not in a worried way, in an angry way. She said, "Mario, is there something you need to tell me?" I had no idea what she was talking about. "What do you mean, Mom?" There was a pause. Then she said, "Sophia just showed up at our house. She is holding a baby." My heart stopped. I could not process what I was hearing. A baby. That made no sense. My mother continued, her voice tight with emotion. "She says you are the father. She is crying, saying you abandoned her when she found out she was pregnant." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. "Mom, that is impossible. We broke up 6 months ago, and we were always careful. This does not make sense." But my mother cut me off. "She has pictures, Mario, ultrasound photos, and the baby looks just like you did when you were little." Her voice cracked. "I never thought you would be the kind of man to walk away from your responsibility." Before I could say anything else, she hung up. I tried calling back immediately. No answer. I called my father. No answer. Panic set in. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to their house. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept replaying my mother's words. None of this made sense. Sophia and I had not been together in 6 months, and before that, we were careful. There was no way that baby was mine. But even as I told myself that, I felt the doubt creeping in. What if I was wrong? What if somehow this was real? When I pulled up to my parents' house, Sophia's car was gone. I walked up to the door and knocked. My father opened it. The look on his face was something I had never seen before. Disappointment, anger, disgust. He stepped aside and let me in without a word. My mother was sitting on the couch, her face red from crying. She would not even look at me. I stood in the middle of their living room and tried to explain. "Dad, this is not true. Sophia is lying. I do not know why she is doing this, but that baby is not mine." My father crossed his arms. "We raised you to take responsibility, Mario. How could you abandon a child? Your own child?" I felt desperation rising in my chest. "I am not abandoning anyone because that child is not mine. Sophia cheated on me. That is why we broke up. I caught her with another man." My mother finally looked up. "She told us you left her when she said she was pregnant. She said she tried to reach out to you, but you blocked her. Everything she said fits with what we know, Mario." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old messages trying to find proof. But what could I show them? Screenshots of arguments, evidence of her lies. None of it would prove the baby was not mine. My father shook his head. "Anyone can fake messages, but that baby is real. We saw it with our own eyes." My mother stood up, her voice shaking. "I am so disappointed in you. I thought we taught you better than this." They asked me to leave. I stood there frozen, unable to believe what was happening. My own parents did not believe me. They chose to trust a woman who had lied and cheated over their own son. As I walked out of that house, I felt something inside me break. I had always been the good kid, the one who did everything right. And now, in their eyes, I was a coward who abandoned a woman and a baby. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could even turn the key. I did not know where to go or what to do. I just knew that my life would never be the same. The days that followed were the darkest I had ever experienced. I tried calling my parents again and again, but they would not answer. I sent texts explaining everything, but they were left unread. I even showed up at their house one more time, but my father opened the door just long enough to say, "Until you do the right thing, we have nothing to talk about." Then he closed the door in my face. I could see my mother through the window. She looked at me, then pulled the curtain shut. That moment gutted me in a way I cannot fully describe. These were the people who raised me, who taught me right from wrong, who were supposed to believe in me no matter what, and they had turned their backs. But it got worse. Sophia did not just tell my parents. She went public. She started posting on social media about being a single mother. She did not mention my name directly, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. Photos of her holding the baby with captions about struggling alone. Posts about how hard it is to raise a child without support. Every single post was calculated. She played the victim perfectly, and people ate it up. Comments poured in. "You are so strong. He does not deserve you. That baby is beautiful." I watched it all happen in real time. Friends from college started unfriending me. People I had known for years stopped responding to my messages. One person even commented, "I always knew there was something off about him." I tried to defend myself. I messaged people privately explaining that it was not true, that I was not the father, that Sophia was lying. But no one believed me. Or maybe they just did not care. The narrative was already set. I was the bad guy, the deadbeat, the man who abandoned a woman and child. It did not matter what I said. Sophia's performance was too convincing. She posted pictures of the baby almost every day. Sweet, innocent photos that made people fall in love with the child. And every time someone commented with support for her, it felt like another knife in my back. I started to understand how quickly a lie can destroy someone, how a single false accusation can rip apart everything you have built. A week after the confrontation at my parents' house, I received an email from my father. It was short, brutal. "Until you do the right thing, do not contact us." I stared at that email for hours. I tried calling them again, but both of their numbers were blocked. I drove to their house one more time. I could see my mother looking out the window. She saw me standing at the door. And then she turned away and pulled the curtain closed. That was the moment I realized how deep this cut. My own mother would not even open the door for me. The woman who used to call me every Sunday just to check in. The woman who cried at my college graduation. She believed I was capable of abandoning a child. She believed the worst of me without giving me a chance to prove otherwise. The isolation was suffocating. I saw on Facebook that my mother had shared one of Sophia's posts. The caption read, "Some people forget where they come from. Prayers for this young mother." I knew she was talking about me. My own mother was publicly shaming me. Relatives started commenting people I had not spoken to in years. They all assumed I was guilty. Some sent me messages, angry messages, threatening messages. One cousin told me I was a disgrace to the family. Another said I should be ashamed to call myself a man. No one asked for my side of the story. No one questioned whether Sophia might be lying. They all just believed her. I knew I had to do something. I could not just sit back and let this destroy my life. I reached out to Sophia. I sent her a message asking to meet. I said we needed to talk about the baby. I told her I wanted to do a DNA test. If the baby was mine, I would take full responsibility. But if it was not, then we needed to clear this up. She did not respond for 2 days. When she finally did, her message was short. Why would I do that? You already know the truth. I tried again. I told her that if she was telling the truth, the DNA test would prove it, and I would step up. But she refused. I do not need to prove anything to you. Your parents already know who you are. Every attempt I made to resolve this was blocked. I spoke to a lawyer. He told me that without Sophia's cooperation, getting a court-ordered DNA test would be difficult and expensive. I could file a lawsuit, but it would take months, maybe longer. And even if the test proved I was not the father, there was no guarantee I could undo the damage that had already been done. I felt trapped. I could not prove my innocence without her cooperation, and she had no reason to cooperate. She had already won. She had turned my family against me. She had destroyed my reputation, and she was getting sympathy and support from everyone around her. 2 months passed. I barely slept. I lost 15 pounds. My boss noticed I was struggling and called me into his office to ask if everything was okay. I took a week off work because I could not focus. Every night, I lay awake wondering if this was my life now. Wondering if I would ever get my family back. Wondering if anyone would ever believe me. There were moments when I thought about just giving up, just accepting the role everyone had cast me in. But something inside me refused to quit. I knew the truth, and I had to believe that the truth would come out eventually. I just did not know how long it would take, or how much more I would lose before that happened. Then out of nowhere, everything started to shift. My best friend Jake called me one night. Jake and I had been close since college. He was one of the few people who never doubted me. He knew my character. He knew I would not do what Sophia was accusing me of. Jake worked as a private investigator, and he told me he had been doing some digging on his own. He said, "I think I found something." Jake had been following Sophia's social media closely. He noticed something strange. In several of her photos, there was a man who kept appearing in the background. Not in the main shots, but in reflections, in corners, in distant frames. Jake sent me screenshots. I zoomed in on the images. There was definitely someone there. A man who seemed to be around Sophia's apartment frequently. In one video she posted, you could hear a male voice in the background. It was faint, but it was there. Jake said, "This guy is not random. He shows up too often." I looked at the photos Jake sent me. My heart started racing. I zoomed in on one of the clearer images, and then it hit me. I recognized him. It was David. He used to work at the same company as Sophia. I remembered her mentioning him a few times when we were together. Could he be the man she cheated on me with? The pieces started falling into place. Jake kept digging. He found out that David and Sophia were living together. They were in a relationship. But Sophia had hidden this from her public social media. She made it look like she was alone, struggling as a single mom. But behind the scenes, she and David were playing house. Jake found something even more damning. He managed to access an old post from David's private Instagram account through one of his connections. The post was from 9 months ago. It was a picture of an ultrasound with the caption, "Cannot wait to meet you, little one." 9 months ago. Right around the time Sophia would have gotten pregnant if the baby was born recently. My mind was spinning. This was it. This was the proof I needed. David was the father, not me. Sophia had lied about everything. Jake and I spent the next week gathering more evidence. He followed Sophia and David, discreetly documenting their daily life. They went grocery shopping together. They took the baby to the park. They acted like a family. In one video, Jake managed to capture the baby, said, "Dada," and reached for David. It was clear as day. This was David's child, not mine. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Finally, I had proof. But the relief was mixed with anger. Sophia had destroyed my life over a lie. She had turned my parents against me. She had ruined my reputation. All for what? Money, attention. I did not understand how someone could be so cruel. But having this evidence was not enough. I needed a DNA test to prove it conclusively. I needed something that would leave no room for doubt. Jake and I came up with a plan. We would confront Sophia and David directly. We needed either a confession or an agreement to do the test. Jake brought recording equipment. We drove to Sophia's apartment on a Saturday morning. I knew they would both be home. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding. Sophia opened it, and the look on her face was pure shock. "What are you doing here?" she said, her voice sharp. I kept my voice calm. "We need to talk. I know the truth." She tried to close the door, but I stepped inside. David was in the living room, holding the baby. He looked at me with confusion and a hint of fear. I turned to him. "Is that your son?" David did not say anything. He just looked at Sophia. She said, "You need to leave, or I am calling the police." I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos Jake had taken. Photos of them together. The ultrasound post from David's Instagram. Everything. Sophia's face went pale. David finally spoke. "Sophia, what is he talking about?" It turned out David had no idea. He thought I was just an ex-boyfriend who was out of the picture. He did not know Sophia had told my parents I was the father of the baby. He did not know she had accused me of abandoning them. I explained everything to him. The lies, the accusations, how she had destroyed my relationship with my family. David looked at Sophia, his face a mix of betrayal and anger. "Is this true? Did you tell his parents he was the father?" Sophia started crying, but she did not answer. That silence said everything. David was furious. He felt betrayed just as much as I did. He agreed to do a DNA test. He wanted to know the truth just as badly as I did. I contacted a lab and arranged for testing. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I just waited. And then the results came back. Probability of paternity, 0%. I was not the father. I held that piece of paper in my hands and felt like I could finally breathe again. The weight that had been crushing me for months was lifted. But the anger was still there. Sophia had destroyed my life for nothing. I met with David again after the results came in. He confirmed he was the biological father. He had also done a test to be sure. David told me something that made everything even worse. Sophia had told him she needed money from her rich ex-boyfriend. That was me. She thought my parents would pressure me into paying child support because of their traditional values. She was gambling on their sense of responsibility. It was all a scheme, a calculated lie to manipulate my family into giving her money. I could not believe someone could be that heartless. But now, I had everything I needed. DNA test results, David's testimony, recorded conversations, photos, and videos. I had proof, and it was time to go back to my parents. I drove to my parents' house one last time. This time, I was not asking for permission. I was not begging to be heard. I rang the doorbell and did not stop until my father opened the door. He looked at me with frustration. "Mario, I told you not to come here," I said firmly. "You are going to listen to me. I have proof." I walked past him into the house. My mother was in the living room. I placed the DNA test results on the coffee table. "I am not the father. I never was." Sophia lied. My mother picked up the paper with shaking hands. She read it, then read it again. I pulled out everything else. The photos of Sophia and David. The statement from David. The ultrasound post. I laid it all out in front of them. I explained everything. How Sophia and David had been together the whole time. How she used their son to try to extort money from me by manipulating my parents. How she destroyed my life with a single lie. The room was silent. My mother covered her face with her hands and started crying. My father sat down heavily, staring at the documents on the table. He looked up at me, and for the first time in months, I saw something other than anger in his eyes. I saw guilt. "Mario, I do not know what to say," he said quietly. My mother spoke through her tears. "We are so sorry. We should have believed you." My father added, "I was wrong. I let my anger cloud my judgment. I should have given you the benefit of the doubt." They explained that when they saw the baby and heard Sophia crying, they assumed the worst. It fit the narrative they expected. A young woman with a baby claiming the father abandoned her. They did not question it. They did not investigate. They just believed her. My mother said she had shared Sophia's posts on Facebook. She had said terrible things about me to relatives. She felt ashamed now. My father told me he had called me a coward. He had told me I was not his son. He knew he could not take those words back. I looked at them. Part of me wanted to forgive them immediately. They were my parents. I loved them. But another part of me was still hurt, still angry. They had chosen to believe a liar over their own son. I said, "I needed you to believe in me. Just once I needed you to have faith in who you raised me to be." My mother sobbed. My father looked down at his hands. They both knew they had failed me, and there was nothing they could say to change that. I did not walk away from my parents, but I also did not pretend everything was fine. I told them I needed time and space. We needed to rebuild trust, and that was not going to happen overnight. They respected that. My mother wrote me a letter. It was 2 pages long, filled with apologies and regret. My father started calling me every week. He did not expect me to answer. He just left voicemails. "I am thinking about you, son. I hope you are doing okay." Slowly, I started responding. Short conversations at first. Then we met for dinner once a month. It took 6 months before I felt comfortable visiting their house regularly again. Our relationship would never be exactly the same. There was a scar there that would not fully heal. But we were trying. And that was something. As for Sophia, I decided not to pursue legal action. Not because she did not deserve it, but because I wanted to move on. I wanted my life back. I did not want to spend more time and energy on her. Sophia and David eventually broke up. David took primary custody of the baby. The truth about Sophia's lies spread through our social circles. The people who had supported her online turned against her. Some even reached out to apologize to me. I did not feel satisfaction from watching her fall. I just felt sad. Sad for the baby who would grow up in the middle of that mess. Sad for all the time and relationships that were lost because of her lies. Looking back now, I realize that truth really does find a way out. It might take time. It might take effort. but lies cannot stand forever. However, the damage they leave behind does not always disappear. My relationship with my parents improved, but it was never quite the same. There was always a small distance, a hesitation that had not been there before. I learned that trust is fragile, even with family, especially with family. I also learned that people you love can disappoint you in ways you never imagined. My parents, who I thought would always have my back, chose to believe a stranger over me. That hurt more than anything Sophia did. But I also learned something else. I learned that I am stronger than I thought. I could have given up. I could have accepted the role everyone wanted to cast me in. But I fought for the truth. I did not let the lies define me. I came out of that nightmare wiser and more careful about who I let into my life. I learned to protect myself better, to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself even when no one else will. My parents and I are still working on our relationship. Some days are better than others. There are moments when things feel almost normal. And there are moments when I remember what they said to me and the hurt comes back. But we keep trying. We keep showing up. And maybe that is all any of us can do. If you have made it this far, I want to know what you think. Have you ever been falsely accused of something? How did you handle it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe so you never miss another story. Thank you for listening. I hope you find peace in whatever battles you are fighting. Take care of yourselves and remember that the truth always matters, even when it takes time to come to light.